Welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Wow. I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. Nowhere near as exotic as Johannesburg. How many times have you been to Johannesburg total? Probably 20, maybe 15, you think?
Yeah, between 10 and 20 times, I guess.
Yeah.
But I spent about 6 weeks, I think, in the Johannesburg area back in 1990 when I worked in a bicycle shop. And as one of the first races I ever did was in South Africa as well. I bought a used bike, and then I got a job at the bike shop.
You bought the bike from?
Yeah. And just in that short amount of time, I was already driving like the company truck, and I was running the lower shop. They had a shop in a shopping center and one in a mall, and they'd most moved their operations to the mall, but they still did repairs in the other shop. And I was in charge, and just a short little time, but I saved money so I could travel up to Zimbabwe and Botswana and Malawi. So, but yeah, it's nice to be in South Africa where it's summer here, and I think tomorrow.
It's probably cold in Florida, right?
I had to put on log pants and a long sleeve shirt the other day.
Wow.
To walk Maui, our dog Maui. I saw that Lachlan Morton. Oh, when I said Morton, I started thinking of Morton Anderson. I started thinking about football. I guess we have football on our mind because the Detroit Lions are somehow still winning. Best record since 1962, so it goes way back. Anyway, Lachlan Morton is in Kenya. I've seen his rides on Strava. I thought, I should try to get a hold of him. I'm like, not that close to Kenya. I'm probably
same continent,
farther away than it is from Nashville to Florida than it is from South Africa to Kenya. It's halfway up the continent. But I saw recently there was a group.
We always think here Africa is one place, but it's
Yeah, well, yeah, I know a lot of people say, "Where are you going?" I'm going to Africa. It's like there's 60 countries or more, I think, in 66 countries, I think, in Africa. So yeah, it's got a lot of countries. But I thought it'd be interesting. I know Lachlan, he made connections probably when he raced with Quebeca, and also all the different rides he's done, like doing Cape Epic in South Africa. He's teamed up with the Kenyan before too. Unfortunately, one of them passed away in a training crash a couple of years ago. But I saw recently there was a group of cyclists that rode to the top of Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, which is over 19,000 feet. So it seems crazy. There's a lot of hikers always going up. I wonder how they got up there. But
yeah, here it's a fairly easy hike as far as
right. It's more it's non-technical and
but still up to whatever
19,000 feet.
19,000 feet, okay. 19,000. Well, okay, because isn't Everest like 30? It's 30.
29,000. So it's 10,000 more. Yeah. But it's above I think base camp is
right. I Everested before. I should remember how far that was. So
well, it is a Warren Cycling Podcast, episode 339. And it is the 20th of November, 2023. We had a really nice chat last week with our longtime podcast guest, who we've interviewed several times now, Alexei Vermeulen, a privateer riding for Jukebox this year, which is not going to exist after this year, is what he said, right? So,
yeah. Yep.
But we had a good chat with him, a little bit off from our normal covering what's going on. But it's the off season for us, mostly because of the road season not going on. But there is cyclocross and track cycling to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, right now we're not even quite to the heart of the cyclocross season. We're started World Cup races.
Yeah.
Way back in September in Waterloo, but the heart of it will certainly be December going towards World Championships.
The heart of it is seeing when Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert start racing, because
do you see that?
They're both going to have a little bit.
Said he's not going to do World Championships.
Not going to do Worlds. Yeah, and I think Wout van Aert isn't either. So Mathieu van der Poel, if he races,
never know. But should be the class of the field. In any race he's in, so you never know.
Yeah. So I guess if we're talking a little bit about.
As typical, Isvert's had a great beginning of the season and is now in the World Cup lead. But yeah,
just by a point over Lars van der Haar, who's having an excellent season as well.
he had a good
It
season.
was Michael Van Torenhout who took the European Championship race again. So, but it's interesting because David Lappartient, the president of UCI,
yeah,
yeah, he had some harsh words for cyclists and kind of like pointing out maybe Thibaut Nice even, son of Sven Nice, who won the first World Cup in Waterloo this year, saying that these riders should be like penalized for skipping World Cup races or maybe not allowed to race at Worlds. And it just seems to make no sense at all. They've got a bigger, a long calendar of World Championships, and then they're racing over a lot of places that are farther away. Like I think Ireland's coming up. They race in Italy. I mean, they race in the U.S. And how can he? It's the calendar fault if it's making it difficult for the riders to be able to set their schedule to make the World Cups the most important part of the race, because there's other competitions too, and some of the riders that think they have a better chance are gonna maybe focus in on those, and they just can't race all that all the time. I don't follow the racers one bit at all. And I think even Lars van der Haar was even saying, yeah, it would be a pity like if you couldn't have Wout van Aert or Matteo van der Poel do the World Championships because they didn't, race all these other World Cups. And he was saying, yeah, we want to have them there because it really elevates the race and you want to race against the best. So I don't know, it seems crazy talk from up here.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing too, because people like, Peacock and Van der Poel and Wout van Aert are doing, road seasons as well too, and they're, three of the best racers, and so they're not just purely cyclocross racers. They're focusing on the season for that too. So, and we've had that happen before, so yeah, I mean, we've had people show up.
Zbar,
I think he did one race
of
he raced one time, I think, and then he did World Championships.
Very limited, and then he won the World Championship back in 2014-ish, I think, and yeah.
I wonder what he must have had a few races to get in the first couple of rows. Right, so it happens for sure. Yeah, and then and there's a flow. Like I said, Isbert and Van der Haar, usually do well at the beginning of the year, and actually Van der Haar, I think he actually won the World Cup. Was it last year or the year before? By coming on racing a full season race to the end of the year, and was able to still do well. So different people do well in different things. But I think, though, the World Cup is owned by, not the UCI, but owned by another organization that puts that on, too. And so it's not like the NFL, where all the games that the NFL teams play are NFL games, and they have to all, they can't like say, we're going to sit out this week, not going to play Paris this week or something. Because the league controls everything. But UCI doesn't control everything. UCI is not, in charge of all the races. They just kind of hold the World Championships and designate what's World Cup. Like I said, I think the World Cup is owned by a separate organization, and so the UCI doesn't have any control over that. Kind of like ASO owns the Tour and then half of the Volta. So yeah, it's more complicated for sure. And I think that because he has a UCI person, he could say they can make rules about the UCI, but he can't make rules about who's going to go to other races.
No, I mean, they can make rules, and then the riders would know ahead of time these are the rules to be able to race in the World Championship. You can't just come out and say, "Oh, they shouldn't be able to race it." I mean, they don't have that kind of power to dictate what kind of rules I mean, maybe you could say he's disappointed in what's going on, that they maybe need to get together and work with a better schedule or something, and talk to the riders and find out why or what kind of schedule they could make to make the World Cup racing more prestigious, I guess, for them, or I don't know. But just for him to come out seems just poor PR in a way too.
Makes him look like a bit of a whiner.
Yeah. I don't know who anybody would agree with him in the cycling community. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like you said, some of the racers themselves, if they don't agree with it, then it's harder for sure, because
maybe some fans are upset because they're not seeing all the big riders come to all the events. But
right, if you go to Ireland or something like that too, well, that's why it was so great this year in Waterloo. They had some of the best racers for sure, for the women's side, So you got to see the world champion and everything racing. And if you go to races and don't see the world champion jersey or the European, championship jersey or whatever, then, it probably is disappointing for sure. Curtis White, current champion for U.S., he's been racing a lot here in the U.S., obviously. So it's great to see he was here just in Hendersonville in our area for the UCI racing that was happening locally in the Asheville area. And so it's great to have the USA jersey going around the laps of the course and seeing him race. And he had a great weekend, winning both days.
He won both days. Yeah, good UCI points for him.
Yeah, he got definitely UCI points for that. And then Kerry Warner was second both days too. So they both got good points. And so you can only use, there's different tiers, and then you only get so many points from different places. Because for a little while, there was a ton of UCI races in US, and there wasn't a limit to how many races you could use in different places. And so these US riders were getting really, really good points and go over to Europe and racing, and they were getting first and second row starts, and then quickly getting past
start positions. But
yeah, so
because we're blocking all the other good riders.
So the UCI did change that, but yeah, no, for sure. I mean, they'll get the points they can from these races and stuff too. And then Curtis oftentimes will go over. I mean, every year, right? Recently he's been going over. Kerry usually go over to Europe and
usually it's getting closer to Christmas time. I think Curtis was there earlier because he did the Denderbahn race before the Super Muddy. He did really well, I think, a couple of years ago. Before we talked to him that after he had done well in that race, but I don't know if they changed the dates around.
I'm looking through it right now. Like, speaking of things in UCI, the number of victories, the most victories that anybody's have in UCI races this year, Thomas Mine is first with 6, and tied for first, Curtis White with 6 wins too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So even though you might get the same points for all that, but podium though, Isabert has 10 podiums. He leads in the podiums. So
I saw Eric Bruner though won the Pan Am Cyclocross Championship. So I wonder if you can target a race like that, it would automatically qualify you then to go to Worlds, would it? For the US team, maybe might be automatic qualifier.
I think so. Yeah, if you're regional champ or whatever, the different regions like the European national champion or the Pan Am is because we are a specific region. I think that gives you an automatic berth on the team that goes to Worlds. I actually might give us an extra spot even too. So yeah, it's worth winning for sure. Yep. And Bruner, former national champion and having a decent season too. So, and it is hard again too because he's racing road, right, as well. And so if you go straight that into Cyclocross and then try and race all the way through to Worlds, it's a pretty tough long season. You need to have some breaks. So sometimes it makes sense to be able to have a flow of your season where you maybe target the Pan Ams and then take a break and then target the Christmas races, for example, over in Europe, in Belgium.
For sure. Yeah. Well, it was Puck Peterson got beat by Alvarado. I think it was the last World Cup race that Femme Van Empel didn't race, and because she's been winning everything. Alvarado's having a good year too. On the women's side, I was seeing that in the top 10, not even one Belgium woman racer. Just really dominated by the Dutch. So, I mean, Zoe Backstead, she gets in the top 10, but yeah, the Dutch are good both on cyclocross and on the road too, aren't they?
Yeah, their women are just amazing. Yeah, they
unbelievable. Yeah.
There's such a deep field for women on the road, track, mountain bike, cyclocross, everything. They're just phenomenally good programs there to encourage women racers.
I guess you would think that Belgium's right next to the Netherlands, like it would somehow spill over and that they would have as many good. I mean, you do have some very good Belgian racers, of course, but just not nearly the depth like the Dutch have.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And the men's side, of course, it's deeper probably for cyclocross in Belgium than it is in the Netherlands. But on the women's side,
yeah,
Netherlands definitely has the leg up there.
Although, is it Pim Reinhardt? Is that how you say his name? He's like 22-year-old. He won a World Cup race a couple weeks ago. He's a Dutch rider, so he's had a good race. But otherwise, Ellie Isabert, I guess Ellie had a bad start or something happened. Yeah, mechanical flat. I think he had a flat, and it's not like he had one of his best races of the year. He just had to pick through the whole field and then catch Van der Haar and then dropped him. So he was going really well.
Yeah, and the Reinhard one, that was on the 12th of November, so just a week ago. And Van der Haar was second, Lawrence Sweck was third, and Isabel was fourth in that race. So
yeah, Isabel might have crashed in that race too.
Yeah, that's the thing with cross. If you have a bad start or a bad exchange in the pits or a crash at an inopportune time, it can just change everything for sure.
Yeah. Well, we haven't mentioned. I mean, we can talk more about cyclocross if you like, but we started our podcast and we've got our wallpaper. We've been doing a little better job, I think, trying to pick photos to put behind us that maybe represent something we're going to be talking about. Right behind you, Lily Williams winning the scratch race in Berlin, right? At the Champions League of Track Racing. Just finished up in London this past weekend, right?
Yeah, so the second round of the Champions League, the UCI Track Champions League. So Lily didn't race the first round, but in Mallorca, but she did race second round and every other race. I think after that, and she won the scratch race. So that was a huge win for her there. And then for the whole series, Katie Archibald, I think, was the repeat winner again there, or she won again. She's super good. Yeah, but Lily was third overall too. So she's the only American woman doing the endurance races over there, and yeah, she was excited about it obviously, and had a really good season. So it's a short season, it's pretty compacted, but there was two races in London at the end, and they draw huge crowds, they have good prize money, they make a big show of it.
Sold out.
Yeah, so it's a fun thing too. And then I know Lily likes going over there and going over there. She's actually full time. She's based now in Europe, so she's not even based in America now. But she likes extending her season from the road season and going over there. She re-signed for Human Powered Health again too, since they're continuing their women's program and she's racing with them. But she also still wants to do track, and with the Olympics coming up next year, she wants to spend as much time as she can on the track, getting ready for hopefully another shot at the team pursuit. Gold medal for that too. But she had a great Champions League, so I want to make sure we give her kudos for that.
I think Lily, she came a little bit later to the track program, didn't she? And racing with that team pursuit with Chloe Dygert and then also Jennifer Valente. I mean, it's a pretty stacked U.S. team. So she worked her way in, and seems like she's really improving a lot now, and it's going to just only help the U.S. Have a shot maybe to win that World Pursuit. Title, right?
Her first chance, I think she went to Worlds first with the team, and she was like the rider that didn't always race. So sometimes she would race in the qualifiers, not in the finals, or final the qualifiers. But now, like you're right, she's really worked her way to being one of the key, top three people in that, and then maybe another fourth person gets rotated in or out. And I think that's hopefully her goal, is that being able to be
Megan Jastrow, isn't she one of the other ones?
She's there for sure too. Yeah, she's.
And she had a really great road season. So yeah, I think it's going to come together pretty well for the women's track team next year at the Olympics.
We've not won yet. We've been silver two times at least. So again, some of it's Chloe Dygert, how she's riding and what she's doing too. Because this last year at World Championships, we did not get first or second. I think we got third. But she just wasn't on her best days, and we kind of need her to be, if she's on one of her best days, then that makes our team a gold medal potential, because it's just getting faster and faster. On the men's side, they're down to like 449 or something like that, or 440. It's unbelievable. It's how fast they're going. Maybe even faster than that, 446. It's just so fast. They're going faster and faster. And the women's side, same thing. They're just upping each other every year in terms of being able to go faster and faster. So they're riding bigger gears. It's just crazy as how track's getting faster at this point in time. Which, for years, I mean, track's been around, since the turn of not this last century, but the century before that, at a really high level. And for people to have this many advancements, do we ever talk about the new world record in the kilometer? So it's like 55.
I just saw that Dutchman, right?
Seconds, yeah. Holy cow! So that's it's like, yeah. I mean, I might be fastest kilometer ever is like, geez, right around 110 or something like that probably. And so when people are going in 1 minute, that was unbelievable. But to have people going, 55. Let's look up the exact time. It was almost by a second too. It's just unbelievable. It's just, yeah. It's, how people go that fast, I don't know. So, and I think he averaged.
I think equipment's always improving as well.
Yeah, I think though, I should look it up real quick because it says like that max speed was like 47 miles an hour like that, and the average speed was like almost 40 miles an hour going for just a minute. It was just unbelievable. It's just
Wow.
Yeah,
it's a standing start, right?
Standing start. Yeah, and so they can only ride so big of a gear because it's just,
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, behind me, or actually this side, Thomas de Gendt, the Belgian racer for Lotto-Dstny for many years, and he's announced he's going to retire after the 2024 season. I think 16 years as a professional, and it's pretty interesting because he's carved his niche, of course, as a breakaway artist. Although he did podium in the Giro back in 2012 when Ryder Hasendahl won with a huge solo. It was a solo attack. It was breakaway for sure on Stelvio, and gained a bunch of minutes and held on to be on the podium at the Giro d'Italia. But he's won stages, all the Grand Tours, and a lot of week-long stage races. This was at the Volta Catalunya. I saw him win back in 2016. He's won several stages there. Actually, he said one of his goals this year to win another stage at the Volta Catalunya. But it's funny about like Thomas de Gendt, Jens Vogt, probably in Thomas Folkler, at least for the fans' perspective, these riders that have that ability to be able to get in a lot of breaks and be in breaks a lot seem to draw a high fan interest and get a big following. But I think Thomas de Gendt endears us even more so because after some races, he's like ridden back to Belgium. Like he was bike packing. He actually rode to the Vuelta this year to get ready for it. So yeah, that's something like, we can maybe identify with a little bit. Like he likes to do those. He just loves to ride, and doing bike packing for training, it makes him, a little bit extraordinary and pretty cool guy, huh?
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, and he's not the strongest guy and ride everybody off his wheel or anything too. So it takes a certain discernment to know, when you go with that move. And of course, then when he does, everybody else wants to go with that move because he's so good at sniffing out the correct breaks that everybody wants to get on his wheel and be in that break with him too. So it's hard to get off that break even harder than when he's trying to go because you have so many people trying to go with you too. So yeah, he's really good. And then winning from the breaks too, knowing how to play the break so that he doesn't do too much work, but they're all going to expect him to do a significant amount because they know he's going to be really good at the end. So yeah, all the things it takes to be able to just get into a winning break, and then get that break to the line, and then to be able to win from it. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, actually, I think I know he won the Giro stage I went to a couple of years ago in 2022 that finished in Naples, and I believe it was a pretty good break that had both Benjamin Gourmet and Matteo van der Poel in that break, I believe.
Yeah, I remember
anyway,
that.
he figured out a way how to win. So yeah, phenomenal, great career, and maybe he'll become a gravel racer after he retires.
Well, I just saw something saying he might race in Asia after he retires. So he's open to race in Asia after he retires. So maybe he'll keep racing in some form or other. So
yeah.
So
I mean, he loves to ride, so it'd be hard for him to, not be doing something with the bike.
So Jeffrey Hoogland, I'm sorry we didn't say his name, who won the 1 kilometer
the kilo record.
Yeah, the kilo record in 55.433 seconds. It took him 20 minutes after he got done to be able to talk because of the effort. So hard.
20 minutes.
Yep, he put I
wonder what his maximum heart rate was.
Well, his peak watts, 2,700. Peak watts.
2,700 watts.
Yeah, I mean, I've done 1,700 before. I think 1,700. He's 1,000 watts more than I've ever hit before. So right,
that's crazy. If you got half that much in a sprint, you're doing really well.
Yeah, like the average Tour de France sprint, I think maybe is close to 2,000. So no, it's just craziness too. I didn't see real quick about how his max speed was and stuff too. But again, it was just crazy high and crazy fast to go that. You know, it's almost, you'd think it's almost physically impossible to do that. You know, but somehow he did.
Sure. I was just thinking about the different articles I read about the road race news. I was thinking about when you talked about the training, or I mean the effort they had to make to do well. Then also I started thinking of Matteo Jorgensen and reading about how at Movistar he didn't have all the support that he wanted to have, where he not as many camps to do training camps, that he hired one of the soigneurs to help him, and he paid for him to do extra training to be prepared last year or this past season, which paid off with him winning early and having a really great year.
Yeah, and I
So
know
now moving into Jumbo, he's going to have a lot more probably financial backing with a big team like that to not have to make his own training camp, I guess.
well, that came out too last year when he was in the process of doing that training, and people took it as criticism of Movistar, saying they weren't giving him all the resources he needed and stuff too. And he said, I'm not. He wasn't trying to criticize Movistar in any way, shape, or form. He was just trying to say he is so committed to this that he's willing to do all these other things. So he wasn't saying that Movistar should be necessarily doing it, although, like you said, with Jumbo, they're a little better funded team for sure, and they have more resources. And that just shows, again, the differences between these teams. The teams that are on the lower end of the budget just don't have the money to do these kind of resources. And so, a lot of people may not be able to pay, but Jorgensen, for whatever reason, was able to work his budget so he could pay that kind of stuff. And it paid off. I mean, he had a great season. He had, his first win came in Oman, I think, right? The very beginning of the year.
Yes.
And won a stage and then the overall by 1 second. But he had a really good year. It's fourth in one of the release, the Clavo Classics too and stuff too. So he had a really good year, and certainly earned that contract with Jumbo. And it's going to be interesting to see, because at Movistar, he was oftentimes tasked with a leadership role, which puts more pressure on you, but also gives you a little more, support with your other riders and stuff too. Where at Jumbo, they're pretty good about helping some riders who will shine, not all the time, give them an opportunity to shine. So he'll have some opportunities, but they'll probably be much more limited than they were at Movistar.
Right. I was just thinking too about how he probably wouldn't have as many opportunities, maybe, with Jumbo too. But considering Nathan Van Hooydonk had to retire, was kind of unexpected, and it's kind of like, in a way, he could be filling that kind of role and playing a big part and being a rider who can go deep into the classics as well as the race and the week long and do a grand tour. He hopes to have a similar program, but we'll see. They won't know until December when they have their camps in that. But hopefully, he'll get plenty of opportunities.
Yeah. And he is ambitious, but that's good. He's still young. How old is he? 24, maybe.
24-ish, yeah.
Yeah, but he wants to do some classics, abbreviated classics program, and then a grand tour. And the grand tour is a pretty tough. Although I think if you want to do the Giro on Jumbo, that's probably your easiest one to get into. So, it's exciting though. It's great having a lot of Americans at that level for sure.
Yeah.
Relatively.
Yeah. For what kind of racing we have going on in the U.S. now, that we're still able to get young Americans over to Europe and get on good programs.
I know, because really, I mean, it's, we don't have a major stage race anymore. A UCI stage race in America. We only have the Maryland Cycling Classic is our only top level UCI race, and that's even one step down from World Tour, right? So where the World Tour teams, you can fill up half the teams can be from the World Tour, I think. But so yeah, it's tough racing wise here, and just over and over you see all these races going away, road races. But gravel racing obviously is really big here and stuff too. But so there's opportunities to participate, but not the same kind of track that can take you to a World Tour team that European countries have.
No, but I did see, I don't have his name in front of me, our junior national champion that signed with Higgins Berman Action, Jayco, because now they're affiliated with Jayco Lulula's team. And so it gives them more direct path to the World Tour, although Axel Merck's Action teams have had no problem finding a pathway to the World Tour for many of the riders. So So it's it's good to see there's still some that are graduating from juniors coming into the actually World Tour already. AJ August,
Yeah.
he signed with Ineos Grenadiers, so that's pretty great to see some younger talent, even though we've got some nice young 20s riders are doing well, and that maybe some more on the way.
Yeah, Darren Parham. So he's the one.
Parham, okay.
Yeah, yep, yeah, and he was in
And he
hot.
came from Hot Tubes.
Yeah.
Hot Tubes has been, I mean, they've produced a lot. Lawson Craddock was a Hot Tubes racer, and yeah, there's several. So can't name them, but I know they've been around for quite a while and consistently producing really strong juniors.
Yeah, and it's. I was when you're saying that they were part of the Jayco.
Kalila.
Yeah, that if I remember right, they're gonna start requiring, I think, to have the World Tour teams some kind of development program or something like that. It's I probably should know this better, but it seemed like we're gonna have some kind of requirement where teams start having to have some more development programs and stuff too, because right now there's a little bit of a lack of that, and then the teams that do have it end up getting poached a lot by the other teams, and so it's kind of not really fair.
That's happened. All right. DMC used to have that happen to them a lot, it seemed.
A lot, yeah.
They had a development team. Yeah.
To the point that they got rid of theirs because of that, because they kept having people, poached from their program.
Yeah, they put in the resources. Yeah.
Yeah, we're developing riders from other teams, so that makes it kind of tough. Yep.
So I guess we should talk a little bit more of UCI news on the road side, because it was an interesting article suggesting how the calendar could really change in 2026. It's kind of the next year after they go in kind of a 3-year cycle now with the teams that are at the World Tour status, with the regulation and promotion kind of system now where the bottom teams lose their World Tour status, but they could maybe change the schedule. Throwing out all kinds of ideas, possibly moving some of the classics to the fall. It was mentioned also, like the Vuelta, moving it in the calendar some so it's not racing in August where it's still very hot, and maybe looking at some other races that might have some weather problems with where they are, but also not having any of the races overlap. Maybe having fewer races, because I think the biggest overlap is probably Tirreno Adriatico and Pyrenees right now, right?
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. But it's kind of nice. We talked about this before too, having these parallel paths for riders to have, so you don't have all the biggest riders at all the races. They're kind of spread out, and you kind of get to see how they're developing, and then they meet at the bigger races. They meet at the Giro, they meet at the Volta, and the Volta, remember, it used to be before the Giro. It used to be in April, so and they moved it. The UCI wanted it to have it, later, and so make that kind of progression. And again, like Worlds used to be in August, and they move that later too. So it's you should re-examine and make sure that the calendar is working for the best for the teams in the sport, and not just say, well, it's the way it's always been. But people I think have to remember that it has been significantly different in the past, and so if they do change it, and during COVID, things got changed a lot. I mean, right? We had
right. That's what they said. They had such big turnouts when they had the Paris-Roubaix in the fall, and
it was dry, I think, too. But yeah, so I mean, might not get as much rain then, but who knows? I mean, as it is, and climate change is changing things all the time too. So, although it is nice to having Flanders and Paris-Roubaix the same a week apart, and almost same week.
I like the buildup of the spring classics now, with the other races coming before Gent-Wevelgem and E3, and it's a really nice blend. I think also also in the article they were mentioning how they like to reduce the carbon footprint by kind of regionalizing racing more, so they're not moving all around Europe and with a lot of transportation, and kind of having different regions featured and move it around that way, so it won't be as much travel for the teams.
Yeah, I mean, they do that in minor league baseball now. They switch, so the teams spend a week and they play in an area for a week, so they're gone. So like my minor league team here in Asheville, they're playing at home this week, then they're playing someplace else for a whole week, and then they come back and play for a week because they want to minimize their travel too. So it's happening in other sports too, and so it makes sense. And I know they keep saying, airline flight is, for example, is one of the dirtiest ways to for people and stuff too. So if they can reduce anybody having to fly, because a lot of times the mechanics and the bikes and stuff will be driven, and then the riders will fly and stuff too in that. So if they can minimize that kind of thing too, then that's going to make a more significant impact. And although each of those impacts are relatively small, if you make a lot of those small impacts, then
they add up.
Yeah, it adds up, exactly. And we need to
Mm-hmm.
everybody needs to do what they can for that, for sure.
All right. Wow, we've hit a lot of topics in a relatively short time. I just don't know if we have anything else particular that you've seen recently that we didn't cover. Last week you had mentioned something that we wanted to talk about this week, but I think it had to do with
the GCN. That was huge when GCN.
Oh yeah, that was it.
So
Yeah,
we talked
the
about this
bomb that GCN dropped on all the people that are registered, got the email. I saw the email, and then the articles all came out at the same time on GCN Plus, and the app is going away in December. And such an awesome way to be able to watch races right on the app anywhere is being taken away from us because of big corporations, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so GCN is still going to exist. They're still got their website and the YouTube channel and things they used to do before they covered all these races. But and I think I'm not exactly sure what the evolution was of it was, but Discovery. The Discovery Plus or Discovery, the Warner Brothers Discovery, they bought GCN at some point, and then were able to help GCN do all these broadcasts and they have an association with Eurosport, and it just made the races so much better with all these announcers that were really good and everything too. So it was really a boon for us in general, because we got all this extra coverage and stuff too. But now they're trying to consolidate, and they're taking away the GCN, right, the streaming and stuff too, for sure. But now they're gonna put us to other places. And so if you're in Europe, a lot of Europe, you have a way to get to Eurosport or Discovery Plus, and that's pretty clearly defined. But if you're outside of Europe, it's not. We don't know what's happening yet. They don't know where you're going to be able to watch these things. And so in the United States, Peacock, which is NBC, has the rights already to the Tour de France and maybe some other ASO races. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But all the other races, though, maybe they'll be on Discovery Plus. They need to figure that out yet, and they don't know. They've already announced that December 19th is the last day for Discovery Plus or not Discovery, GCN Plus, and they don't know where we'll go. And that's right before the week of racing, the Christmas races, cross races and stuff too, that normally you'd be watching on GCN. So hopefully they'll have it sorted out before then. But and then those of us who have annual subscriptions, we're supposed to get money refunded. But it just seems like it's not very clearly thought out yet, too. So we look at Peacock. So Peacock, it's right now $5.99 a month or $60, $59.99 a year. But you could just get it if you wanted to watch the tour. If that's the only thing that's going to be on it, you could get that for $6, which is a pretty good deal.
Right. You don't have to pay for a whole year. They don't advertise the price being per month, but then you really got to pay for a whole year, like some other subscriptions.
Yeah, that didn't always work out very well, but yeah. So and then Discovery Plus, we're not sure how that's going to work. So we need to figure that out.
For the best, right? Can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you're mentioning that there's a way to get to Eurosport through a VPN, but then you have to pay for the subscription from a European bank, not from the US. So it's kind of a workaround maybe to get that, because Eurosport they pretty much lock on the sports coming out of Europe.
Yeah, it's amazing, and really good announcers. That's where we get Sean Kelly from too, and we were just saying that the announcers from GCN, which we're really used to seeing, and that's a mesh between GCN and Eurosport announcers that we hear at all the races there. So we'd hate to lose that as an option for sure. They said they were at 210 events broadcast in 2023 with over 1,000 hours of live coverage, inclusive of digital platforms. Because we see when you're watching the digital platforms too, we're always seeing that we get 100% coverage. We don't have any commercials, and then they'd say, well, are those viewers who are watching it on Eurosport TV or whatever, we're going to break away for a commercial. So, they're obviously getting it there on their broadcast TV, but we get to see just uninterrupted here. We're we're kind of spoiled now, and hopefully we can continue to be spoiled.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah, remember when we used to go to Steep Hill, and Steep Hill used to have links to like different ways to watch broadcasts and
And you'd get
all the
sometimes,
platforms.
yeah, sometimes they'd have
Yeah, then you
viruses.
have to sign up for things. Yeah.
Stop, and then sometimes you'd get links that would give you, up to the last 25K of a race, and then stop, and oh, it was so hard to watch things to do.
Yeah.
Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually too, then
Right.
NBC Sports had a good, line on a lot of races. They had the Giro and stuff too for a while too, and then that went away too, and yeah, so it's I guess it's constantly evolving, and streaming services in general, I guess, are losing money for a lot of companies. So yeah, it's an industry that's going to have to sort itself out. It'd certainly be hard to back off from streaming services in general, but it's going to have to change, either consolidate or switch or charge more money or something to make it viable. But man, people are spoiled with being able to stream pretty much whatever you want to.
Right. But it is difficult when you think about all the different streaming services you need, either if you want a music streaming service, if you want different TV streaming programs. And I mean, you got rid of cable because it was getting to be so costly, but I don't know. I haven't added up all my streaming services to see how much am I paying a month to watch the content I like to see. Yeah.
We have cable and streaming services, which makes it even harder. Yeah, so we started canceling some of our streaming services, but then we always examine it. We say like, well, what do we watch stuff on this one? And sometimes it's we watch some shows on it. So what's it worth? But I think the next thing for us might be to cancel cable. If we can figure out exactly, what do we watch on cable? Because I tried to get something the other day on cable. I wanted to see something, and it said I wasn't subscribed. Oh, TCM, Turner Classic Movies. That apparently is not in my package. Taxi Driver was on. I had never seen the movie Taxi Driver. I was gonna, record that. But so yeah, if you're not even getting TCM, which used to be a staple of every cable package, then maybe it's not worth spending whatever we spend a month on cable, which is probably far too much. And then just figure out how to get local stations through Hulu or whatever else you can, because we don't have much open air, and we're kind of down a hill and a little bit of a hollow, so we're not going to be able to see very much with the open air, broadcast. So yeah, it's a thing.
Ever changing, ever evolving. So
It is hard to keep up.
all right. Yeah. Well, let's do our birthdays and wrap this up. The Warren Cycling Podcast here, coming from South Africa in Asheville, North Carolina, episode 339. So we've got the 20th of November birthday that we'd like to do birthdays, wish cyclists that are celebrating their birthday on the day we're recording. And sometimes we get some really awesome lists with some top riders that won Grand Tours, but not today. Not a big high career point total. The rider, though, on the top of the list, I believe I had him on my fantasy team for the Vuelta, and he didn't do anything so well for me. So I don't want to hold a grudge against him, but happy birthday to Ivan Cortina Garcia. I mean, these Spanish guys that have extra names, although I guess some of the Danish ones too, like Magnus Cort Nielsen. Sometimes he was Magnus Cort, sometimes Magnus Nielsen, but Ivan is celebrating only his 28th birthday, so he's got some more years to get some more points. But he's at the top of the list for today for birthday.
He's won a stage of Pyrenees and a stage of the Amgen Tour of California, so and of Grand Piemonte. So he's won some races. He's mostly climber. And excels more on one day.
He's a fast finisher.
Got a fast finisher. Yeah, he's got a good sprint even for climber especially. So yeah, he's been with Movistar for quite a while and is signed through 2026. So he'll be with them for a while. Yeah,
right. He's actually of the top 12. He's the only one active that's on the list.
Which happens sometimes for sure too. But he's active and top of the list. Who's our oldest person at the top? I see a 50, a 63, a 75-year-old. Here's from Italy, and
Tartuni. Giancarlo Tito.
Giancarlo,
Yeah, but he's only got 353 total PCS points, Pro Cycling Stats points, which.
But he won a stage of the Giro, though. He won a stage of the Giro, so in 1977.
All right.
Well, that's not too bad. And he was third in a stage of the Volta in '77 too. So a lot of times back in those days, you didn't have a lot of people outside of Spain racing in the Volta. So, So you did some more for sure. But yeah, he got in '77. That was his best year. He it looks like he had, quite a few things of success, and he raced only through 79. So, yeah, he was a good sprinter, looks like.
All right. Well, we like to look for the different Americans on the list. I'll bring. I think it said at the beginning 260 cyclists or former cyclists celebrate birthday today, but they list just 100 at a time, so you kind of refresh and get the different ones. But on my list here, I only had, I think only one American.
I have Luke Mather.
Yeah,
he's current. Yeah,
Luke
he's
Mather.
so he's current. He's 20
young.
years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was 22nd in the time trial national championships in 2022. That's his notable result. So it doesn't say what teams he's on, so we're not sure what he's doing, but it does say he's active though. So
right. Well, we're not going to be doing our podcast this Friday. I don't plan, and that's Taylor Warren's birthday. We're gonna give a shout out to your nephew, my son, who's gonna be celebrating his 31st birthday. Wow, and he's racing next year again for
CS Velo. Yeah.
For CS Velo out of Philadelphia. Yeah, so happy birthday ahead of time for Taylor.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, I was just talking about Taylor yesterday or today, and I was saying I think 31 years old. I know it's craziness, right? But people do it. But he's still racing at a high level. Looking forward to that.
He's very high. Well, he's hitting a lot of his top power numbers recently, so I think he's got a couple pretty good, decent years ahead of him.
Yep. He's gonna spend the winter in Florida again, though, for a change. So down more in your area, so it'll be warm for sure, but nowhere near as mountainous as San Diego. So we'll see.
No. Yeah. All right. Well, it's always great to catch up with. Oh, bless you. Catch up with what's going on. Happy Thanksgiving to our listeners too. We appreciate you tuning in and listening or watching. That we put this on the YouTube channel. And yeah, thanks, Randy. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep. Thanks, team.
All right. Bye now. Bye.